They're just trying to delay, stall, obfuscate everything, the reality. And the reality is that this is the greatest geopolitical disaster in American history, and he cannot run from it. He cannot hide from it. I mean, the consequences of this war have been incredible. I mean, America's stature in the world has gone down dramatically because of it. Our allies are pissed off at us. Everybody, you know, the GCC. I mean, Barry McCaffrey wrote yesterday about 15 bases in the Middle East now we might not have access to anymore. And Iran used to be a regional power. They're now a global power because they control the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, they are able to put the thumb on their people now in ways they never could do before. And these people they're going to watch their people. The IRGC is going to watch the Iranian people eat dirt before they give in to the United States. If we think that these economic sanctions are going to work, think again, because they're absolutely wrong. And of course, the global economy has been impacted by the Strait of Hormuz being gone. I mean, we're seeing suffering all over the world. Americans are paying more for gas, for food, you know, and Donald Trump just wants us to ignore it and pretend it didn't happen.
Well, as Trump increasingly realizes that this isn't a quick war and it isn't going the way that he planned, and he hasn't been able to negotiate a peace. Our colleague Drake Traylor has some interesting reporting in MS Now saying that Trump loves to criticize Jimmy Carter. Privately, he's starting to empathize with him. So finally, Trump does find some empathy with Jimmy Carter in that he understands what it's like to be held hostage to Iran. And that's where we are these days.
It is where we are. And it's kind of, it's interesting to me, Murat, that we find ourselves in the situation, war of choice. Okay. But you would think that you would at least put in play the people who could manage and run that war every day. The people who would be from a diplomatic standpoint, on the ground, doing the massaging that diplomats do, the military piece standing ready, doing what it needs to do when called upon. And yet this is a hodgepodge of incredible, crazy stupidity. And how do we then, or how are we supposed to negotiate ourselves here when the Secretary of State is basically a stooge? I mean, I would, in every administration.
Where is he?
Thank you. Where is he?
Has anybody seen Marco Rubio?
Where's Marco Rubio?
Where is Marco?
Where's Marco? Right?
I think he's doing some podcasts. I saw that.
He's doing podcasts. But here's the other part. You've got the Treasury Secretary, Bessent, out at the tip of the spear at the economic policy on Iran. What the hell are you talking about? Sit your behind down. You got no place at that table. Help us try to contextualize it. I think the bottom line is that's why this thing has not moved.
That's right. I think the difficulty with economic sanctions on Iran has always been that Iran's main export is oil, and the main purchaser of Iranian oil is China. They buy about 90% of Iranian oil. So you really cannot choke off the Iranian economy, if that's what your goal is, without curbing Chinese purchases of oil.
Right.
And so what are your options in that situation? Well, in order to actually enforce those types of sanctions, you need to be willing, the United States government needs to be willing to go after and impose penalties on very large, powerful Chinese actors, Chinese banks and other large Chinese institutions. That's going to provoke a reaction from China, right? They're going to impose sanctions, tariffs, whatever the case may be, on the American government, on the American people. And that's why historically we've been a little hesitant to do that. So unless you have China's cooperation, which we don't in this instance, because this administration has no grand strategy. They don't think about any of this 3 or 4 steps ahead. It's just whatever Trump wakes up and thinks is the right thing to do that day. Now we're in this position where we're talking a big game. I saw Secretary Bessent talking about economic D-Day, but it's really, they can't do that unless they deal with the China problem, and they don't really have anything on the table that would address the China issue.
And Secretary Bessent, to be clear, sidestepped the China issue when he was asked about it, and he said, well, we're not trying to throw the world into global chaos.
He knows at least that.
Well, I think he knows a little bit more. They're all playing stupid for the president, in my humble opinion. Here's the thing. The president, has declared mission accomplished here. He posted this AI generated post on his little social media site. It appears to be an AI image of him, and people can see this, standing over two signs in a war zone. One sign next to former President George W. Bush states mission not accomplished 2001 to 2021. Another sign next to what appears to be Iran's former supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei reads mission accomplished 2026. We had a story last night from our colleague, Priya Sridhar about how the military is currently trying to discipline and punish the soldier that almost died by suicide on the USS Lincoln because they could not disembark off the vessel for the reason you noted, how the bases in the region are closed. The base in Bahrain, I believe, was so critically damaged that the vessel couldn't go there. So our soldiers were stuck on the ship. Many Americans have died in this war with Iran that at this point, no one can still articulate to me why we're in this war. And there's no end in sight. I remember a day where a president would have been punished for something like this. Like he would have been, this just wouldn't have been acceptable. Republicans all over the country would have been being asked about it. There would need to be an apology. There would have been an uprising. It's like, this is a blip.
Why are we in this position? Because the GOP has let it be so. They have empowered Donald Trump in ways. I mean, somebody needs to call the 25th Amendment hotline because there's something wrong with this guy.
Right.
There is. But are the GOP calling him out? No. And what we're seeing now is a crisis of leadership across the board. And this is what happens when you surround yourself with sycophants like Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio and Scott Bessent. These people are not competent at what they're doing. And you have somebody like Pete Hegseth that's running he's the Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of War as he called it, running this war. He has no clue what he's doing. And what you're seeing now is soldiers and sailors like the one that jumped off the USS Lincoln the other day, is they're being caught because they've been there for 9 months. They don't know how long they're going to be there, and they don't know why they're there in the first place. Now, that's what really makes it so incredibly painful. So you have a crisis of leadership up and down the chain of command, and that's why we're seeing things like this happen.
Well, General, really quickly, you're a logistics expert. How concerned are you about our depleted stockpile? Mm-hmm. What could happen to our allies in Asia, and then also Ukraine and our NATO allies in Europe?
I'm incredibly concerned about it. If you think the USS George Washington, it's stationed in Japan. Where is it right now? It's in the Persian Gulf. Okay, all of the Patriot missiles that we had in South Korea, I used to be the USFK J4 over there. You know, a lot of those were diverted to Iran to fight this war in Iran. We have depleted our stockpiles that are going to take us years to recover from, and now we left ourselves exposed in the Pacific. This war is hurting us. We are weaker now as a nation. Our national security is at risk because of this war, because Donald Trump has been unable to negotiate this situation with Iran.